Hey everybody, it's Regan Archibald here and welcome to the Health Transformation webinar, and really happy you guys made it. We've got some interesting topics that we're going to talk about today, and those topics are what can you do with peptides? I know last week Cade was here and talked a lot about some of the cool things we're doing with peptides, but today I'm going to dive in deep into a couple of these. I'm not going to speed through a bunch. I want you guys to, just really dig into some of the possibilities that exist in medicine. I was at a medical conference called the Collaborative Cures in Nashville last week. And the coolest thing about it is the innovation that's going on right now in medicine is just phenomenal. And peptide therapy is one of those medicines that is what I think will be the future of medicine. This is part of what we'll be using in regenerative therapies, because peptides, not only are they incredibly safe, as you'll learn today, but the other thing about peptides is there's over 7,000 combinations that you can make for peptides, and they all can be very selective. They all have no side effects, so they're all very well tolerated, very safe, and also very effective. It's some of the most effective medicine on the planet, besides, exosome stem cell therapy. But this is, in my opinion, a breakthrough, because we've just scratched the surface. There's about 400 peptides that have been formulated, and a lot of the research has actually been done by pharmaceutical companies who have taken the peptides and they've seen that there's this huge opportunity for a new medicine to create new drugs. And they got it to a certain level, and then they realized, oh man, peptides are, they're very unstable. Like, they have to be used quick. They can't sit on the shelf. So it's not like the drug reps can go to the doctors and just, load up their cabinets with samples and get the patients hooked on them. Peptides actually have to be used within a certain time frame. A lot of peptides have to be injected, so it's not the easiest administration. Some of the peptides are oral, but the majority are used in other ways, like sub-Q injections and things like that. So today, just as far as announcements go, we've got an exciting East-West Health Retreat coming up November 15th. It's on Friday, November 15th. And if you're not registered for that, registration is open. So make sure you join us there. We will be doing samples of peptides, letting you get some acupuncture treatments, some ozone therapy. We'll be doing treatments. And then we'll also be taking you through some movement therapy. We have yoga, and then we bring our chef in who does the nutritional class and training. And the last retreat was just phenomenal. People were literally in tears at the end because they learned so much about their health, and they just had such a great experience. So come join us for that. But without further ado, let's jump into peptides now that I've given you some context. So for those of you who have questions, type it in, and I'm happy to answer those questions. But the very first peptide we're going to talk about is thymosin alpha-1. Now, Ryan Smith, who's one of the founders and developers at tailor-made compounding, and tailor-made compounding is where we get all of our peptides from. Tailor-made compounding is a business in the healthcare model that's grown 8,500% this year. And so they are the fourth fastest growing health-related business in the country. And so it's very impressive. But one of the reasons why they've grown so fast is because they have formulated these novel therapies. And so Ryan Smith, his number one favorite peptide, as I heard him speak, is the thymosin alpha-1, because you can use it for a variety of conditions. You can use it for Lyme, you can use it for cancer, for hepatitis, autoimmune conditions. If you're coming down, you feel like you're getting a cold or a flu, come in and we'll give you an injection of the thymosin alpha-1, and that therapy will help eradicate the cold or the flu. I just had patients who were in here from Hawaii, and they're heading to Australia, and she's working on getting her immigration papers in, but part of what they need her to do before she immigrates is to get vaccinated. And she's like adamantly opposed to vaccines, and we just did stem cell therapy on them. And so I'm like, man, we don't want you getting vaccines right away, because of some of the preservatives that are in vaccines will stunt some of the signaling factors of the stem cells. And so so what we decided to do is let's get you on thymosin alpha-1. And what thymosin alpha-1 can do is work as a vaccine adjunct where it mitigates a lot of the damage from the vaccine as far as your immune response goes. It helps improve your immune system's ability to recognize some of the bacteria or viruses that you're being vaccinated against, but it also helps eliminate the toxic byproduct from the vaccines. And so thymosin alpha-1, it helps with the innate and adaptive immune response. So it's a way that your body can, it uses these peptides to facilitate better recognition of, potential threats in the environment. It also helps you recover more quickly from colds, from flus. It works with infectious diseases. It's great if you happen to be diagnosed with cancer, and it works whether you're going through cancer therapies or not. It also helps suppress tumors. So it has some, even some cancer fighting agents. It works if you have immune deficiencies. So we're now seeing phenomenal outcomes with our patients who have chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, or our patients, who have, considerable immune deficiencies from viruses like HIV or hepatitis C. And so it is a very fascinating peptide. Thymosins this was formulated in the 60s from Dr. Goldstein from Albert Einstein College of Medicine. And what they found is that several of the small peptides, such as thymosin alpha-1 and thymosin beta-4, two of which we use here in the clinic at East West, very powerful. What they found is the physiological processes that these peptides affect include stimulation or suppression of immune responses, regulation of actin dynamics and cell motility, neuroplasticity, so it helps with the nervous system, the brain, repair, remodeling of vessels of the heart and other injured tissues. It works with angiogenesis and stem cell differentiation. So once again, that's quoting Dr. Goldstein from Albert Einstein College of Medicine. So very interesting. So thymosin alpha-1 actually was one of the only peptides to make it through the FDA approval from the pharmaceutical companies. They decided this was such a powerful agent that they have now made it into a pharmaceutical prescription called Zetasin. And Zetasin is made from Cyclone Pharmacies. And it's one of the only ones they decided it's powerful enough, and people will do these sub-Q injections. We're going to turn this into a prescription drug. But one of the most interesting things that they found is, as the Cyclone pharmaceutical company was testing this, is they actually found that it had less side effects than the placebo. And so that's actually really interesting, because they had their control group and then they had the group using the thymosin alpha-1 peptides. And they found that the placebo group had more side effects than the actual group that got the thymosin alpha-1, and which would show that it's got very innate immune regulatory responses. So if you're looking for something that's totally safe, thymosin alpha-1 is phenomenal. The name Zetasin, that's Zadaxin, is that's the pharmaceutical, but this is a peptide, so it's a natural agent. You can't, the way that you sequence peptides, that is something that nature does, and so it can't be patented, but you can patent your proprietary methods as far as how you put these peptides together, how you sequence it. But that's where, it's very interesting, because the research has been done, and it's been done very thoroughly and very well. Some of the things that are, that kind of correlate with the thymosin alpha-1 is the cytokines and receptors. They help increase IL-12, IL-2. These are interleukins that can help in the regenerative stages. They help with T cell proliferation. It stimulates CD34 stem cells. And it stimulates these CD34 stem cells, which primarily reside in the bone marrow and in the small intestine. It allows these stem cells to differentiate. into CD3 and CD4 cells, so they can actually become part of your immune system in your blood. So that's one of the ways that thymosin works. It also increases the CD4 and CD45 RO. So these are the memory T cells. So once again, these are really important with your T cell proliferation and differentiation, so that you can recognize threats in the immune system. Because a lot of us, we get really sick and we don't recover from illnesses because our immune system is not able to recognize threats when they come in. It has an effect on tumor-infected cells. It increases tumor antigen expression. It increases GSH levels as well. And so this is really important, because what that means is it will suppress the cancer. So if you happen to have cancer in your body, the thymosin alpha-1 is a great way to mediate that response. And so if you just look at the entire mechanism behind the thymosin alpha-1, these are little protein markers, these little peptides. So all peptides are is it's just a string of proteins, but the proteins are put in a sequential order. It's just like the alphabet. We can exchange letters from the alphabet, and by just moving certain letters in a different way, you can create words, and the words have different meanings and different expression and different energy behind it. Peptides are no different. Peptides are just ways of remodulating and reformulating the communication in our cellular matrix. And so the peptides are how the cells actually go through RNA transcription and translation, so that you have a cell that can express itself as any one of the 220 types of cells, as a nerve cell, as a cartilage cell, as a cell for tendons. And the beautiful thing about these peptides is they're the safest medicine on the planet. I mean, when I was at the seminar, we're comparing the safety profile of peptides versus some of the Chinese herbal formulas that I use a lot. And one of the things we found is that peptides actually have fewer reported adverse reactions or adverse events than even a lot of the herbs and supplements that I've used in my practice for years. So this is a very exciting breakthrough for me, just being able to see that. But thymosin alpha-1, for those of you who are looking for better energy, get your immune system more acutely aware of what could be a potential threat, what isn't a potential threat, this is one of the most powerful and most modulating of all of the peptides, because once again it helps suppress tumors. It inhibits your IL-4, IL-10 production, so it's not going to leave you in a chronic inflamed state. And then it calms and downregulates your immune system, so that your immune system can use more of its innate intelligence to really capture what is attacking it. And it does promote antibody protection, so against viruses, against tumors, so very powerful. Some of the studies show that it enhances the T cells, the dendritic cells, which are for the brain, modulates cytokine and chemokine production. It blocks steroid-induced apoptosis of thymocytes. So if you have been on a round of prednisone, for example, or if you've had a steroidal injection in one of your joints, thymosin alpha-1 will be a good modulator, so that you can actually get rid of some of the apoptosis. Apoptosis is when the cells die because of it, because steroids actually promote more degeneration in your body. And then we talked about the vaccine adjunct. It increases effectiveness for anti-tumor effects. And it also protects against oxidative damage from treatments of Hep B, Hep C, AIDS, with no adverse side effects. So thymosin alpha-1 has also been used, and thymosin beta-4 have been used in anti-aging. We've seen it with any type of decline or dysfunction in the immune system, increased inflammation, any oxidative damage. If you look at anti-aging, some of the markers that you want to get tested for next time you're in the office, talk to us about the Genova oxidative stress test, because the Genova oxidative stress test is one of the key markers to see how quickly your body's aging. We've talked about testing your telomere length and seeing, how much age has kicked in, how old you are from a biological perspective versus chronological. But and that's important. It's kind of a fun marker. Some of the research is showing that it may not be as relevant as what we'd like it to be. It's not so cut and dry. Just the telomere length is that little tail at the end of your DNA. And the longer the tail is, the more protection your DNA has from senescence. So that's when the cells stop replicating. And so, one of the things that we look at now is maybe let's look at oxidative stress. And so these are some of the things that tend to downregulate our cellular proliferation, our stem cells. When your oxidative stress is high, your stem cell differentiation and proliferation is low. The thymosins, they help with decreased protein synthesis. So if you're not putting on muscle mass, this can help with the protein synthesis. It helps if you've got decreased detoxification. So if you are finding that you just don't recover well, not detoxifying, and it also works with tissue and organ atrophy. Some of the studies that were done, this one was published in 2010, almost 9 years ago, and they found that not only activating immunoeffector cells or modulating cytokine expressions, thymosin alpha-1 or TA1 also directly exerted its effects on target cells. It could increase the expression of MCH1 and tumor antigens, directly depress viral replication, and increase expression of viral antigens on the surface of target infected cells, making them more visible to the immune system and less prone to escape from immunosurveillance. So if you have been exposed to Lyme disease, for example, you've had the tick bite, if you've had Epstein-Barr, this is one of the most powerful treatments you can do. What we do for Lyme is we found that the Lyme have biofilms, and when we do like an intranasal stem cell treatment, that biofilm gets broken up by what's called LL37. So it's a secretome from the stem cells, and then your immune system can start to recognize that and start to eradicate it. And what we found is that when we use thymosin alpha-1 when we're treating Lyme with the stem cells, or anything in the brain with stem cells, it just makes your immune system, it's like putting a magnifying glass on what the immune system needs to target. So very, very interesting there. So I think if you look at this, some of the things that you'll see with thymosin alpha-1 is not only is it safe, but it also is something that produces better energy. It gives you better resilience towards aging. So we had a question that came in from Steve. Hey, Steve, good to see you. Assuming autism is an autoimmune response that causes inflammation in the brain, is there a specific peptide that would help both suppress the immune response and address the inflammation? Do all peptides need to be administered via injections? Are peptides complementary to stem cell therapy? And so these are great questions. So let me answer that real quick, Steve, because one of the things we've seen is that thymosin alpha-1 would be one of the most powerful peptides that we would use in conjunction with stem cells with autoimmunity. The only issue is, like with kids, we've treated several kids with autism, and I think you're okay if I speak about your son, but this would be difficult because you'd have to administer the thymosin alpha-1 with an injection, and your boy is not going to be super happy about that. So some of the others we're looking into are oral. So BPC-157 is an oral that has had really promising impacts with autism. And so you and I need to get on the phone very quickly and let's figure out what's going to be best for Anthony. So hopefully that answers your question, but there are peptides you can use intranasal. So that's like the Cmax or even the RG3 synapsin or intranasal peptides that I've used for years. And then now there's immune modulatory peptides that are very important. There's growth hormone type mimickers that are very effective. There's peptides we can use to influence hormones in the body so that you're not messing with your endocrine system. And some of these can be topical, so you can put it on as a cream. Some can be spray, intranasal spray, and the majority still are sub-Q injections. Great great question there. Okay, so that's some of the conditions that thymosin alpha-1 has been documented to be very effective for are a scleroderma. And this is an autoimmune disease. It affects the glands in your mouth, so you can get really dry glands, dry face, dry skin. Your joints can get very sore. So scleroderma, liver fibrosis, chronic dry eyes, alopecia. And so with alopecia, one of the research that I saw is where they'll use stem cells, and they will inject the hair follicles and place it in about 8 different areas of the hair. And then what they're using is then they'll come back and they'll put thymosin alpha-1 and inject it into the scalp. And it's been awesome for not just for alopecia, but also for hair regrowth. Periodontal disease. A lot of dentists now are starting to look into this treatment for periodontal disease. Sarcopenia, osteoarthritis, tendinitis, wound healing, post-surgery, cardiac and neuroprotection, post-myocardial infarction, polymyalgia rheumatica, all powerful things that this has been treating. And so I think if we look at thymosin alpha-1 and we just consider all of the possibilities of it, if we look at another study, this is where they took thymosin beta-4 and they used it in Sjogrens syndrome. And what they found is Sjogrens syndrome is very similar to sarcopenia with the salivary glands. What they found is it helped with the expression and the gland's ability to produce saliva. So helps with digestive system. Very powerful peptide. So the other peptide that's kind of interesting is there's peptides that work like Botox-like peptides. They work at decreasing the amount of muscle activity by blocking the release of acetylcholine. And so one of these peptides is called arginine, and the arginine is at reducing wrinkle lines. It's also great at basically it helps with women. They did a study and they found that there's a 48% improvement of fine lines of wrinkles in the eye area. And so we have a lot of patients who are getting Botox these days, and I've got no problem with it, but you're putting a botulism toxin in your body. And so all the peptides do is they help regenerate the areas where there's no release of acetylcholine. So some of the things that happen when you get wrinkles is the acetylcholine causes the muscles to contract and stay contracted. And so one of the things the peptide arginine does is it helps relax those muscles and works with the acetylcholine pathways. Here's a clinical study published in the International Journal of Cosmetic Science. They reported that the acetyl hexapeptide 3 at 10% concentration reduces the depth of wrinkles up to 30% after 30 days of use. So this is a topical. And once again, there's several different applications of these peptides that are all very exciting. And so what we'll do is on our next episode, I'll be diving into more of the performance enhancement type of peptides and injury prevention type of peptides. So hope this has been exciting for you as it is for me. And I really appreciate you guys being on. Thanks for the questions that came in. And I will see you guys next week.